felt I was doing something that was going to help me achieve my goal, because you want to do something. You want to be active. And so much of it is just waiting. We talk about so much about patience.
The point of today's episode is for you to try to extract some of it out of me, because I think when people understand the story, it really explains the program.
The program, where it came from, what it's meant to do, what it's meant to do, what it's designed to do, and how it supports you through the cycle, emotional cycle, physical cycle,
spiritual cycle.
Mm-hmm.
The journey. Yeah. So, I think we touched on this in the first episode. The dream that I had about Joyce Vargas when she said, I'm not coming back, but there's something really big you're going to do, and you won't want to do it because you're shy and anxious, but you'll do it and go to CFP. They will help you. But before that happened, I had witnessed several thousand other women in my office, you included, watched women change, watched this process change them.
Mm-hmm.
And I ran with that because it had changed me so much to where I was able to conceive Kira.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew that there was something here, and I call it fertility education or patient empowerment through fertility education. That's what it's called in my thesis.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like when I conceived Kira and was pregnant with her, I started writing the chapters of my book, and I completed those stories while pregnant with her when I spent 17 weeks on bed rest. But I drafted the Seed program outline while my mom was dying after Joyce passed away. So I was bedside with my mom and working through the notes that I had compiled over those 8 or 9 years of practice. So when the patients would come to me, I used to use a doctor's notepad, and I would write down, try seaweed this week, or eat squash this week, or here's a recipe for squash soup.
You also did read this, get this book, try this meditation. There was a few prescriptions.
There was a lot of sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Anna and I were going through so many notepads with all these pieces of information. And I asked Anna, do you want to write a book with me? Like, we'll take these 4 phases and we'll expand on them as we have elaborated here in the office. And then she became pregnant.
Yep.
And so I was like, dang it, another one before me.
It keeps working, and we don't have time to write it down.
Right, it's working too good.
We're on bed rest. We're feeding. What's going on?
Yeah. So
we're giving birth.
Yeah. So we ended up, she just kind of helped support me in my endeavor, but I decided I can't just be me and not do something with these ideas, this fertile thoughts and fertile foods. And when you're thinking right, you're feeling better. And if you eat these foods that are aligned with the menstrual cycle, then you're going to be feeling better and you're going to be thinking better. So it just all feeds into each other.
Also, I found when you would give me those prescriptions to go with the cycle, I found that I felt empowered, and I felt I was doing something that was going to help me achieve my goal, but also making me healthier as a fertile being. And so I felt that that was something that gave me confidence as far as, and I knew that that kind of taking action really changes your perspective of the possibility, because you feel yourself in motion. You feel yourself moving forward when I say in motion, and of something that is, I can do this. And for those who want to like check the boxes and do their thing,
this is perfect for that.
It is perfect because you want to do something. You want to be active. And so much of it is just waiting and being patient. We talk about so much about patience, that those kind of things, that became a daily routine, and the shopping and the eating of the mindful eating of those foods, and going, oh, Danica told me that this, and thinking while I'm ingesting that, thinking of what it's doing for my body, what it's doing for my fertility, what it's doing for my egg.
Yeah. Well, it also made it diagnostic for me as your practitioner. And it is even now when some of the women tell me, oh my God, I am buying so many sheets of nori seaweed, right? That was you. But there are other women that have reported that and they really need it. And that's a sign to me to go exploring the thyroid and also
that was me.
Their adrenals, and knowing that they want the salt or they're maybe iodine deficient.
Yep.
Sometimes they'll really crave the milk and egg recipe. And I love when they love it. They always love it, but when they recognize that their body is assimilating it so well, then they start to recognize that they became too depleted and too deficient. And when they really respond well to it, I get encouraged because I know that their egg count is going to increase.
Yes, that's the goal. That's
normal genetics, eggs, and a healthy full-term birth. That's the goal.
That's the goal.
But these are the steps that we have to take.
But yeah,
that get us there.
Yeah, of course.
So then, as I unfold this story, so I wrote the book while I was pregnant with Kira, and then my mom was dying, and I was sitting bedside with her, and I kept reaching out to California Fertility Partners, asking them, you know, can I still do this? My mom is dying. They thought she was going to die last week. It's the really intense hospice season, and they were so reassuring because nobody else was having the idea. And Joyce had kind of protected it for me, I think. So they said, don't worry, just take care of life and then come in here.
Yeah, they weren't going to replace you. They weren't going to find someone else to do this. They had already partnered with you. You had already, I wasn't going to say it, proven yourself, because the patients that you were collaborating with them were having such great results.
They were seeing it.
Yeah, they were seeing it, not just in the results of live births, which is, yes, the goal, but just the change in those patients and how they participated in their journey and how they went through their journey.
Yeah. So both Dr. Guy Ringler and Richard Mars said, of course, no problem. Create an outline and let us know what you want to do, what you want to teach. We will for sure let you do it here. And I surprised myself when I had the opportunity to conceive Jack, and it worked again effortlessly with one attempt only, natural relations with my ex. But then I was like, dang it.
Another delay.
Now I'm probably not going to be able to teach my class because that would be horrible to be in that audience watching this pregnant woman tell me what to eat. And so I went to Dr. Ringler and I said, I still have this information. Here's the outline. What do you think? And he was like, I love it. Why don't we call it Seed? So he was the one that came up with the name.
I didn't know
because we kept trying. I was like, let's call it Spirit of a Mother. Let's call it Woman to Woman or something like that. And he said, well, but the gay men and their surrogates or their donors, like don't eliminate them. And I said, you're right. He said, how about Seed? Because it's a verb, it's a noun, it's a potential, it's all kinds of things. I loved it. We agreed on that. And then
the beginning of growth at the beginning.
A starting point, but potential really is what is in a seed, right? So I loved that idea. And then I said to him, by the way, remember how I told you I have that FSH of 20 something and the blocked tube? And he almost jumped over his beautiful marble desk. He said, are you telling me you're pregnant again? And I said, I am. And so if you don't want me to teach it until I have the baby, I understand. And he said, no, this is living proof that what you are teaching and doing and how you're living is changing you for the better. You're an inspiration. So that was then the beginning of the Seed program. So then I put the outlines together, and then I used to make the foods for all 4 phases. Not all of the foods, but the
samples.
The best ones. And I made the recipes. I created little folders, made handouts. I put a little blank notebook, a pen. I brought a paper shredder. So I had this, I'd used Jack's stroller and I rolled, he wasn't born yet, but I had a stroller and I would pack everything into it. And I had poster boards made, graphics, because we didn't have everything digitally at that point. But I had these poster boards and I would go around the room and I'd watch how everybody was really sad or uptight, tough nuts to crack, before I started explaining the story of fertile thoughts and how we can actually change our thinking to improve our fertility by downregulating our nervous system and by changing the hypothalamus and the pituitary and setting an intention that creates a different unfolding, right? So then I would crack the ice with the paper shredder and I'd give everybody 5 minutes just to do a data dump, what's in their head that they were not going to share with anybody in the room. They're not going to stand up and say anything. I even skipped introductions and backstories. I didn't want anybody to feel like their identity was somehow compromised or that they had to share. There was the opportunity, if they wanted to, we would do that, but nobody had to stand up and say anything. But they did have to write down what they were thinking for a few minutes and then go to the shredder and shred that. And then I would bring out the foods. And as soon as the foods came out, the moods changed. Everybody started to relax.
Treats.
Yeah. And food is really something that's used to create an atmosphere, break the ice, but also knowing that I started with phase 1 foods, which cleanse and calm, then bring in some of the phase 2 foods to pad the nerves. Then we would take a little break. Then I would bring in more fertile thoughts, let them digest those foods so that nobody left feeling too bloated or anything. We'd do some more writing exercises. And as the food came in, then they started laughing. Right. And what were we talking about on the break about laughing? How important it is, right?
Yes.
Especially this particular field. So if we can bring in the human component and the community component, and for kind of like a 12-step support group or something, for those women to hear that there are stories that were worse than their own, that started to normalize it and destigmatize it. And that was really important. That would crack them in a good way. And then I'd pick up with phase 3, explaining how that's a time of vulnerability because we don't know if the sperm found the egg. We don't know if the egg got fertilized. We don't know if embryo division is continuing or implantation happens. So that very vulnerable time, it was validating for them. And then I would explain the foods to eat to keep them warm and to not create a bunch of bloating. And then we'd flow into phase 4 and all the things that I had seen in these women who were hoping so much to be pregnant, but for us not to know, and whether or not they were pregnant based on their symptoms and us just purely speculating helped me to figure out that they needed to land in the middle. All those symptoms didn't mean necessarily pregnant. That actually means more like hormones aren't properly balanced. And no symptoms definitely doesn't mean that it didn't work, especially in women that are doing a lot of acupuncture, taking a lot of herbs.
I had almost no symptoms.
Because you were really balanced by the time it finally worked. You had worked through a lot of emotional stagnation. You had improved your diet. Your relationship was solid. You had done these amazing things for your friends. So when we would say phase 4 is about success or failure, finding any kind of success in the middle, that was where you felt like, yes, I haven't conceived and stayed pregnant yet, but I feel like a successful person.
Yes.
Right.
And I was doing things that were helping my journey, my fertility goal, and also helping my person as a woman, as a mother to be, or as a mother in the world, of just being helpful to others and playing the role of mother before I had my own child to mother. Yeah, for sure.
So in the Seed program, those 3 roles that I delineate for the women includes the mother, but also the gardener to pull the seeds, to pull out the weeds, till the soil.
For the egg to grow.
Plant better seeds. And then trust, right? And faith. And trust and faith came in with the role of being an empowered, wise egg. So the metaphors piece, when Guy declared it as the Seed program, that gave me the insight to create the gardening pathway kind of thing.
And to use that imagery,
And that's what I use in the program, because it's way more forgiving and easy to work with than your LH surging, all the science, right?
Well, you get enough of that when you go to the
doctor.
Yeah. You get in the test results. And I was mindful of those, but it was also became a little bit of an interesting science project, even though I'm not saying it wasn't stressful, but because I knew more and how what I was doing could affect that, when I would see the changes for the better, better numbers, better results, that was very empowering and relaxing in the way that I am doing good. And it was always, even if it's only a 0.5% forward, it is forward. It is better. Yeah. And when you know better, you do better.
Right. It's forward, and still it's elusive, and it doesn't come with a guarantee. Yeah. So like I tell my patients, when you met your partner, they didn't come with a guarantee that they were always going to make you happy or never going to leave or whatever. So this process doesn't offer any guarantees either. But
it does offer learning opportunity, and it does offer, if you're willing to take it, willing to experience it in that way. And it does offer opportunity to connect with your own body and your mind and body and your mind, spirit and body. It's those kinds of things I hadn't, even though I was acting as a profession and for so long already by the time I met you. So I was using my emotions, but it was always like as a career, as a child, utilizing your emotions like they were a slave to me, like they were like part of my toolbox for work. This was understanding them, to have trust, to use them in a different way.
Yeah, it's great that you made the connection. There's a story that came through the Seed program of a woman who I helped her to decide to use donor eggs. Yeah. And she volunteers her story. It's one of the montage that's on the homepage of the Seed program. And she was one of Dr. Ringler's patients. Her story is so much, right? So she ended up using an egg donor. She conceived twin boys. And when the boys were like 8 years old, the father was diagnosed with brain cancer. And she and I have stayed close friends following her journey, because the journey brings us together in a good way. And she let me know that if she hadn't done this program with respect to her fertility, it wasn't so much that she wouldn't have the boys, she wouldn't have the tools to know how to navigate the grief that was fast approaching, and how to give the boys some tools. And she's still picking up the pieces after now he's passed away. But when she told me that, like, I was always so grateful to the women who allowed me to put their videos on this website to encourage other women. And that particular story of hers was so good, and I will never be able to thank her enough for letting me use it and trusting me with it. But when she let me know that in this even harder chapter of her life, that the work we had done together was pulling her through that.
Yeah,
I think it really made it serious for me.
Yeah, the grief recovery program that you introduced to me was very
The grief work.
Yeah, that was very important.
The Debbie Frankel interview episode goes into it so well and explains how much our hearts are invested.
Yeah.
And that's living fully.
Yeah.
You know, so I think in all of these stories that have been donated to the Seed program for the benefit of other women, that is this heart share and the interwoven tapestry.
Oh, yeah.
I love that phrase, especially for this particular subject.
Yes.
How we're connected to one another by our stories, especially if they can be triumphant stories, you know, but.
But when you talk about the cycles and the phases, that's life too. I mean, they're microcosms of that every month for us in that fertility time. But you look at your life and you can, in periods of time, or if you want to look at the whole life extended.
Yeah, we're in the late fall right now, you and I. Definitely not in the winter season yet. But yeah.
Late fall.
Or our second spring.
Yes, let's call it the extended spring. How about that?
Yeah, way better.
Way better.
Yeah.
No, you know,
and yet we are wise women.
Yes, I was going to say the wisdom
teachers.
And I'm proud of some of the things. I've made some big mistakes, like many people, and we have kicked the dirt a little and cried and
cried a lot. Both of us are
and
criers.
then we're both criers, but we both have that thing where we end up turning it full circle and laughing at the sometimes absurdity of our tears. Not that tears are absurd, but how we got there, why we're here. And realizing that cycle too, when we were going through the cycles, and you would say, like, look at your life as the cycle and see there's proof there that you can accomplish this. There's proof there that you can get through this to something better. And you never talked about, like, you can never guarantee anyone. I can remember you saying that not everyone will be able to do this, but everyone can learn, everyone can change for the better, and understand what being a mother for yourself, for your community in this process can be as well, and change yourself so that you could, if at the end you don't have the live birth that you were dreaming of, that you wanted, there's something else there that you will find, that you will create as a mother, as the spirit of the mother, that will be worthwhile, that will satisfy. And if you're willing to show up there. And that is something that you...
and like Brenda Strong said and Debbie Frankel said, as they tried and it didn't work, but then they have in forces or like with so much strength, personal strength, they've helped so many
something
people.
else came to them and came out of them that was creating, that was being mother, that was part of their life's work, part of their
destiny,
their calling. We talk about that.
Well, the Seed program, anybody in my inner circle knows that the Seed program is my calling. This idea that there is fertility education and it is important, and it creates more predictability in our day-to-day instead of the craziness of hormones and not knowing and not understanding. I have women who come to me who are not having a period, and I give them access to this information so that they can try to mentally come back online by doing something for 7 days, something new for the next 7 days, something like that, and then teaching it to my daughter and her friends, the ones that will listen, your daughter, to empower them with the information. Because one of the things that I hear more often than most things is, I wish I had learned this in school, and I wish they would teach this in school, and I wish I had known. And I think we could all say that.
But there's a lot, back when I was in this journey of 2006, 7 in there, 2008. There's so much more talk of it now. And there's great advancements in the medical as well, but there's still no guarantee. So things like this, that the food, the mental, the spirit, the breath,
it kind of becomes a way of living.
Yeah.
If you're female.
And even though we do have the medical advancement, these things are still at the root, because there it is again. Like that's at the base of it. Yeah. That
buried under the soil.
Well, that you need as well. You can't, this is not I'll just take this pill and fix it. It's a different kind of medical
approach. Yeah, it's a holistic approach.
But besides, so you talk about, like, wish these things were around. There's other things besides the Seed program that we've been looking at that I didn't have to share in my the Seed program before it was a Seed program was helping me. But when you talk about the holistic guide to healing endo.
Yeah. So the masterclass is like, here's where you're going to be guided to hopefully pregnancy. But endometriosis is a whole other impediment.
Yeah.
And women are really struggling with it. And I didn't want to take the masterclass and make it even bigger and more overwhelming and clunky. So I made the holistic guide to healing endo based on my personal experience with endometriosis, my very close friend, Ellen, going through that at the same time that I had my third laparoscopy. And so our brains were just really fresh on the subject matter, talking about how we prepared our hospital bags and how we moved through recovery and how we moved into the decision making, especially like it's scary to have it done really well with the excision surgeon, may or may not be covered by insurance. So all of these things have to be discussed. And I wanted to save the women time and a lot of money by putting it all in a course for them, because it's a decision-making course. It's not a course that has a magical answer for endometriosis. It's a way of looking at it from all the different angles so that you can make an informed decision on whether or not to do surgery. And then there's 8 or 10 vetted excision surgeons and their contact information, because if you're going to do it,
this is who you should do it with.
Well, you don't want to do it where they're only going to do cauterization or ablation, because then you're not pulling that root of the implant.
You're not fixing the problem really.
Then I made other ancillary courses, like for example, the egg freeze preparation course, because again, if you're a woman who's single, you don't want to be doing a fertility class that's talking about preparing for IVF. You just want to, and an embryo transfer, you're not quite there yet. And also, women who are younger and they're freezing eggs, they don't have the same mindset of the loss and the drudgery. So I needed a class that would speak to potentialities and a bounty and abundance. And as much as possible, we're creating some semblance of insurance for the future with eggs, and then the consciousness that we can infuse into those eggs. So that was that class. Then we pulled the fertility meditations out of the masterclass for people who are already feeling like they're supported enough. They have enough of a diet and a plan and a coach that's leading them, but they wanted some fertility specific meditations, or for them to listen to the meditations and get their feet wet to see if they might want the program. And then my favorite class, ironically, is the healing after loss, because it's very pointed strategies to move beyond the grief and the loss of the dream.
Yes, how it would unfold.
Yeah, easy family building not happening. That's something, that's a loss. Everybody has a dream of a family, and hopefully that it will happen easily. And that includes the partner too. So like when the dream doesn't happen, or the dream becomes a nightmare, that's a loss.
I definitely felt that. I had an idea of how it was going to go. I thought, I finally found I got married later. I got married at 37. And I finally found a partner, and we were both on the same page of like wanting a family. And I just thought I would just get pregnant, because the little I had done, the investigation of having a FSH that was so wonderful for my age, and everything was all not having any problems, gynecological problems. I just felt like I was just so sure of it. And I never thought like, oh, male fertility could be a factor. So I just, and I always, I have one daughter and I'm very, very grateful, but I always imagined that she would have a sibling. And the time it took to have her, not that I ran out of time, but by the time I had her, I just knew that that was what I could do. And I had other things to do. And that was okay. And I have mothered in other ways, big time with creating arts programs, and definitely while I was still pregnant and after I gave birth, coaching other women.
Coaching women through IVF.
And everything that I had, when you say save time, money, because that is a big stressor, energy. If I can help you come to a decision faster, just with the information I can give you and the perspectives, not just from me, but other women I've talked to, because
could potentially save them 6 cycles or something,
yes.
or a year or something.
Yes.
And
not to agonize so much, so that once you've made the decision, say, oh, well, this person, all these people also had this problem, this question, and they all arrived at this, and this is how it worked. So I'm doing the right thing. Just to have that kind of support from experience and a place of like, I am here for you because I am you. And when they can recognize themselves in me, because I recognize them so clearly, that makes it that makes it that it was so worthwhile, and there was a purpose to it.
Yeah.
Purposeful. Yeah. And so, male fertility was a big part of our struggle. And you do
in
have
the masterclass, I do have a men's module.
And very few people, healers, doctors, attend to that so well.
Well, I took an indirect way with it too, just to be clever. Instead of telling him, don't do all these things, I said, here's how you can win at supporting her.
Yes. Do this, you're going to get some points.
Here's her 4 phases. Here's some good scripts that you can use so you can win. You can start winning again by knowing how to help her in this. And if he's winning, then he's feeling like the provider, and he's more in the divine masculine.
And also some of the things that you can do to help, because so much, because we are carrying the babies, has to be done by the mother, and so yes, how they can support it is you're in the game too. I mean, of course they're in the game, but
well, how we feel about them is reflected in the soil quality. I think our receptivity, I think, reflects and reveals how we feel about the lives that we've created, as that being the lining on the inside of our second heart. If we are cold, if we are angry, if we're cold, we have clumps and clots. If we are hostile or angry, upset, then we have inflammation in the lining. So
I had it all.
Yeah. Well, so there is this thing, the endometrial function test that Dr. Beck and I talked about, but the soil really does reveal the emotions where the woman is at. There was this other story. I love this one. A woman who was formerly married and having trouble with her ex-husband while she was in a new marriage. They shared 2 kids together. And with the new husband, she wanted to create another child. But the ex-husband was creating so much drama for them that in 1 year, she struggled with 4 losses. So I sent her to Dr. Beck and I said, I've ordered all the autoimmune panel for her. Can you do your detective work on this? And she did an endometrial biopsy, a uterine, a biopsy in the lining, and came back that there was endometritis. But So there was an infection in the soil. But here's the funny part. The ex-husband's name is Clay. So some clay in the soil makes it very hard to grow a garden.
Crumbly, yeah.
Isn't that interesting? So right about the time that she got her endometritis diagnosis and needed some antibiotics, doxycycline specific for the uterine lining, she had really exerted a strong boundary with
she had to extricate clay.
She had to get clay out of her
clay out
life
of the garden
to get the clay, the metaphorical clay out of the soil and take that antibiotic. It all came together at the same time. And lo and behold, of course, with the story, it ended up that she conceived, and that was a full-term pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
These stories, I've seen so many of them, and I'm still seeing the stories.
So how the life changes the fertility journey changes what's happening in the overall life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I have the advantage when my women come in and they are really concerned that it's not going to work for them. As one of the last resort practitioners on their team, I see so many cases where it does work out. So I see that and I think, well, we can crack this case, or I can help you to feel better about knowing that you've done everything that you could have and get you to a place of peace.
Mm-hmm. When I think of going through this journey and the things that you taught me and the things that I experienced during that time, I remember when we were working together and you told me that you were pregnant and that you were taking time off because you had to. And I was going to continue working with Anna, who's your partner at the time at Well Woman. I remember crying and going, but you're leaving me. And at the same time, but this is great because it works, but you're leaving. And that kind of...
that reflected how healthy you were, because a lot of the other women were really upset and they left my practice. But I was, they weren't upset because I said I was leaving. They were upset before I announced that I was taking a break, because they didn't know anything about my struggle. You did
share with me, though.
I shared it with you, but I didn't share it with anybody else because we had that Joyce Vargas connection.
Mm. Yeah, that's how I came to you. Yes. Yeah, she said, you have to go meet this doctor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But maybe it was because of the way that you and I have an easy communication, easy conversation all the time. Mm-hmm. Or you knew how to ask me the right questions. But you kind of pulled the story out of me and I was able to share that.
Well, I think sometimes you were sharing, because sometimes I was a little wallowing when I came to you. I was really hurting, and I mean, you weren't like for me snap out of it, but
to say like, hey, listen, here's the thing. We're part of an interwoven tapestry.
And you used to share not just your own story, but you would share. I didn't know the people you were talking about. You didn't use the names, but you would share other stories, and that was very important to me. Mm-hmm. So I feel like that part of that
personal part, right?
Yeah, that was really important to me, that community. And so one thing that I, besides all the information and the action you can take that is so positive and helpful and mindful, purposeful, all those kinds of things, that kind of community of understanding that you're not in it alone and being able to talk about it is so important. Mm-hmm. And that is something that is almost the most important thing for me, of understanding that this is not particular to you. This is not being done to you. This is something that you're going through with many others. Yeah. And
well, my story, knowing that I had been knowing and hearing this little Kara Connor's voice for those years, but not telling anybody that was going on, because that would be really weird.
Yeah, it sounds a little crazy.
And it hadn't turned into anything. So to take that chance, I needed to know like how it was going to unfold before I started talking about it. I was trying to integrate, because it was more than a happy surprise. It was a complete surprise.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think Dan was really prepared. I don't think he really
For it to work
knew
so
quickly.
quickly.
For me to know how well I had prepared my egg quality.
But see, isn't that interesting? Because you're doing all the things, but again, it's that you never know.
Well, I didn't have. I had the sweet spot that I try to get the women to in phase 3 and 4, where I had practitioner certainty, knowing I had checked all the boxes, but I also had the humbled, vulnerable piece of
course, I
have no idea. I'm not God, and I don't know, but I think.
And just what every other, like you tell all of your patients, there is a part of it that you just don't know. I remember Dr. Vargas putting in embryos and then doing this.
Their double finger cross. Yeah.
And it sort of dawns on you, like, of course, you can do everything. You prepare, but there still has to be that. Is that spirit baby coming? Is it that my time? Is it?
Are you on the right frequency?
Yes.
With the same frequency that the baby needs to come
And that's a hard thing to be okay with, but there's also something very comforting, and it releases you from that grip, because it's part of it, is just not, you can do everything, and that's everything that you feel comfortable with, that you are drawn to, and do it well. But you also have to say to the universe, okay, what are you giving me? And then work from there, and trust that the universe is going to present that.
It's funny that you're saying it like that, because I'm remembering I kind of dared the universe, thinking this is going to be so complicated and unconventional and not popular, maybe even frowned upon. I'm not sure how my family is going to receive this, even though they love Dan.
Because it wasn't conventional. It wasn't,
this was I don't even now hear of stories like this, but I had to kind of try anyway.
Yeah. Because that was the path that you saw, and you wanted to be a mother. And you knew that you could be a mother and do it well in what you were walking the walk of what you say. You don't know what the journey is going to look like.
Yeah, I would be such a hypocrite if I had the chance
and didn't
try and then said, no, I'm still waiting for something ideal. This
something
isn't good enough.
Yes,
because phase 4 has the key word of enough.
Yes.
Knowing you're healthy enough, the conditions are good enough.
And what is given to you in the end
prepared enough.
Is enough for your life. And and take the experience. Oh, this is a hard one though, because you want that. And I get it. I know that longing. But what does it turn into? Like some of the other people you've spoken to on the podcast, and I had to let go of that dream of the second child. It just wasn't. It was so I
had to let go of the dream of a husband.
Yeah,
and then where that led me, the more that I let that go, then I started recovering from the postpartum of Jack and thinking about the husband in the same way that I had about the babies. Like, well, actually, the field and the potentials in the field, why would there not be? Why would that not happen? And I just started emitting a different frequency that was like joy with the life that I created. And, of course I had 2 kids, but I had joy, and that was attractive. And then I attracted that marriage. So I did have that experience.
Yes.
And just because it didn't work out doesn't mean that I'm unhappy.
No, you had that.
I've now had that experience. Thank God for the interwoven tapestry, all my friends though, that have helped me to put myself back together after that loss. So it's again, another life thing where helping so many women to get their goal, and then so many women coming in to help me recently when I needed it.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, yes. And when I look back over that time, those 3 years, because it took 3 years for me, the things that came into my life, that I believe I attracted into my life, and what transpired during that time, they're things that I'm really proud of, that I accomplished. there's things that change my perspective of how I lived my life and how I thought and what was, talk about good enough or enough. Those things changed of what I wanted too.
Yeah, you're so different now than you were then.
Really? See, I can't. I mean, I know. When I say really, of course
now.
I am.
Yeah, but we're friends now too. We're not patient and practitioner.
Yes.
But you're also a mom of a almost 16-year-old girl.
Yeah.
And so much life has happened.
So much life. Yeah. And the loss of my marriage, and I didn't see that coming, and that was really painful. But also what I've accomplished since then. I had to change my life to just earn a living, a better living, and
survival,
yes. But all these tools I had, it's so interesting that the biggest struggles in my life have provided for me now to earn a living. That's, who'd have thought?
Yeah. And
that your biggest challenge becomes a way that you make your living.
Or that the happy ending is it's just the beginning of the demise.
Yes. Oh, yeah. But then
that's so sad,
but then there's rebirth again.
Yeah. And
that's going back to the cycle.
Rebirth.
Yeah.
Because I said that, everything that I say is intentional. And I said that just now because so many patients think that if they have a baby, then it's happy ending. Or if they have a second baby, then it's happy ending. I have some that are here for baby number 4, thinking that that's going to be happy ending. Well, no, happy ending is wherever you decide to make it. And you have to keep
And why does ending have to be
again.
A part of it at all? Just happy.
Good point.
I'm just saying. Because no feeling is final. You can be happy for a while, but when we believe that no feeling is final, and I really do believe that that's true, Rilke, thank you, that you're going to get sad again. Like nothing,
nothing.
Sorry, you're going to get sad again, but you're going to get happy again too. And those, you laugh at me.
Well, here we are.
You know what I mean?
I'm laughing with joy because I know that you're absolutely right.
Right, yeah. And that's what I say. My daughter always says, "Oh, Mom, you and I are so emotional. We hurt. We feel so." I said, "Well, thank goodness we feel so deeply. Would you want to go through life not? I mean, why? Give yourself the opportunity to feel deeply, even if it's crushing, because if you can feel the crushing, you can also feel the incredible joy.
And then everything in between.
And everything in between. Let yourself and know that no feeling is final. And if you keep moving forward,
there
one
you
step
are.
here, yeah.